This is Not for the Average with Trent Leishon.
Ryan Tuckwood, welcome to the Boom podcast.
Mate, thank you. Thanks for having me. Boom.
Fantastic, mate. Great to have you on board.
Just like Swish. Mate, really good to be here and great to connect recently as well. I'm excited to have a bit of a yarn about sales.
The man behind SWISH. Would love to know what it is that you guys do and maybe take a little bit back to, how you got started, because I know it's a really good story.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was down in Melbourne last week, actually, at coaching a company called Plantation Homes. And there was an apprehension around me delivering training. They were nervous because they'd seen the socials, they've seen some of our events and maybe what I wear. And there's maybe a misconception that I'm this crazy extrovert that loves being the center of attention. But actually couldn't be further from the truth. At 5 years old, my mum and dad took me to the doctors because I had weird social anxiety issues. I didn't like being in social settings. I wouldn't go to kids' parties. If we went for dinner, apparently I'd take my shoes off and sit under a table and didn't speak to humans. And then that stayed with me majority of my life up until the age of 27 when I left the UK. By then, I'd been an engineer for 8 years. So I was a mechanical engineer, mechanical maintenance engineer for 8 years. So my friends were machines, didn't have to speak to humans, worked 12-hour days, 12-hour nights, covered in grease and oil. Pretty good at it. I was very technical, very methodical, which I've realized now serves me exceptionally well in sales and in business. But I got to 27 years old and I just thought there might be more out there and I didn't really know what it was, to be fair. And I'm sure a lot of people have that moment. And I called it my quarter life crisis. So I jumped on a plane. I left my comfort zone. My comfort zone was property, living with my ex-girlfriend of 5 years. I drove an Audi TT, so I had a nice car, good income, about £40,000 a year. I thought that was fantastic. Siberian Husky, so very much like the traditional family life. But I wasn't fulfilled. I was achieving, but I wasn't fulfilled. And by the time I got to Australia in, I think it was August 2010, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did know on the visa that I came, you could only work for one company for 6 months. What that meant was a lot of companies wouldn't give me a shot. I didn't want to go back into engineering. I knew I'd get in that hamster wheel again. And I found myself in a call center. And this is the first time I'd ever even been in and around sales at all. My job was to make $300 a day, and I had 90 seconds to find out if a total stranger had $15,000 to $25,000 liquid. And if they did, I'd write their email address on a piece of paper, pop it in a tray. Every hour, the receptionist would come by, take those leads, and take them through to the closers, to the sales team. Mm-hmm. And I sucked at it. I got punched in the face, metaphorically, about 295 times a day. Got told to go away and die and F off and all these obscenities. And it really started to get to me. And if a lot of people listening, I'm assuming, will be able to relate. If they've been in that environment, there's usually a scoreboard. So there was a sales board in the office, and I was 21st out of 21 people. So not only was I getting abuse day in, day out, I was also visibly aware that I was the worst person in that office for the first 3 months. And it got to the stage where I literally had 31 cents left to my name. At one stage, I was sleeping on my friend's bathroom floor for 6 weeks here on the Gold Coast on a Lilo. And the actual, what I call my crisis point, was one night that Lilo popped on me, or that pool floaty popped on me. And that was it. That was my, not only my crisis point, but also the catapult to where I am. So it's been an interesting journey. And the reason I say it's
not even the blow up bed works. Fucking hell, that's my life. Love it.
It doesn't work. Not even that. It was. I remember so clearly laying there that night as it goes and I sink, and I'm laying there going,
yeah.
A conversation with myself. What am I doing? What I had such a comfortable life back home. My girlfriend at the time, who became my wife, now my ex-wife, we couldn't afford sushi one night between the two of us, and I'm like, I'm done. And I went into the office the next morning, and I pulled Jack aside, my sales manager at the time. He actually became the co-founder of SWISH, and I said, mate, I'm not cut out for sales. Sales is for extroverts. It's for the people that have got the gift of the gab. I'm going to go back home. Alicia's already agreed she's going to come with me, whatever I decide to do. I'm out. And what Jack said to me next changed the whole trajectory of my life. It is really why I'm so passionate about communication and words. Like one word track, one statement, one quote can change the whole trajectory of your life. And Jack's was as simple as this: I'm not letting you quit, Ryan, because you haven't even tried. And I asked him in the moment, I said, what do you mean I am? I'm working really hard. He goes, no, you're working hard. Like, you're coming in, you're in first, you're out last, you're making the most hours, but you haven't truly tried to understand the art and craft of sales and communication. And he challenged me. He said, give me 60 days. Let me prove to you this is a skill that anybody can acquire. And if in 60 days you don't go from 21st to 20th, I'll pay for you and Alicia to go wherever you want, but leave here with your head held high, knowing you gave this a really good go. And that was the start of everything changing, because period, which ended up being 5 weeks, within 5 weeks, I went from 21st to first. Everything fell into place and I fell in love with sales. And I never, ever thought I'd say those words.
As you were sharing that, I'm thinking, I love, everyone's got a war, everyone's got multiple war stories normally that shape who they are. So when I'm hearing you talk about those experiences early on that were really tough, I'm thinking to myself, good, it's good for you. But at the time, when you look back on reflection, you think, wow, that sort of shaped who I was. That made me resilient. That they were really important learnings, but it's never fun at the time.
One of our coaches, a guy called Daniel Tolson, he's from Sydney but lives in Taiwan. He's our emotional intelligence coach, and he messaged me a couple of days ago about another podcast I did. He said, "Mate, I just listened to this podcast all the way through. Very rare listen to podcasts all the way through." He said, "What do you think was different about that interview?" I said, "The person that interviewed me was a sales guy." And it's the same as this, right? You can hear the war stories and you can go, "Oh yeah, that sounds tough," or you can actually get it. And I knew jumping on here, you get it, and it was character building. And you're right. In the moment, I didn't know it, but I've done 330,000 cold calls. I don't do cold calls anymore, but my team I still get them to do at least an hour of cold calling a day, because some of our clients do that we coach, and it did really build something in me that I didn't know existed. So I am thankful for it.
It's a sort of almost an apprenticeship you have to do to give you that understanding, that grounding, that empathy, to know how hard it is for some people. Because again, you said social sort of anxiety issues when you were younger, which I can relate to. I had a stutter as a kid, so the stutter was quite serious when I was stressed. Classroom environments, adults were terrifying, but at a very young, as tough as that was and very confusing, even my little sister could talk well. I couldn't. Speech therapy. Parents got me on the goat's milk to try and psych me into. They're telling me it was the cow's milk that was doing it. Drink the goat's milk and your stutter will go.
Wow.
All this sort of stuff. I remember vividly. But yeah, it's all communication. How you communicate, I think, is just so important. That's something that I talk a lot about at Boom, which is it is all about communication. Sales is one aspect.
You said the word empathy earlier on, and if I look at our members or who we coach, so we rebranded in 2020 from ISR training, which meant a few different things, but eventually we rebranded into SWISH, selling with integrity, selling honestly, and almost overnight we started to repel the clients we didn't want, the Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street wannabes that were just transactional, do anything to make a commission. Why do I share that? Because now 32% of our members are female, and over 40% of our members are not in sales. They're in HR, they're in administration, they're front of house, they're people and culture. And the way they articulate their message is exceptionally important, because it all impacts the experience for the end user. It doesn't matter where they are on the chain. They could be on retentions, they could be in accounts receivable. They can impact the experience that end user has. And I think because I get that some people are terrified of the phone. Like my old boss, he didn't get it. Ryan, just pick up the phone, get on with it. It's just a human. Some people have a debilitating fear of actually having that conversation. And that was me. I used to get a red rash on my neck if I got towards a close. I used to put the phone down if I got an objection. That's how I dealt with objections. That's that gone. And I think it really serves me well now because I do get that, which
It's
means we're
rash.
going to have to adapt our training
The
accordingly.
anxiety rash. Yes. Well, it is. It sales for a lot of people is really, really, it is a dirty word. Like we often get asked to remove the word sales.
Same. Yes.
Trent, can you please remove just the sales eke? Is there another way you could position? Like we don't really use that word here. There's many ways to say it's basically the same thing, influencing.
Yeah, we went the other way. We put it in the name. We went SWISH Sales Coaching. We're like,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
wear it as a badge of honor. Sales is the most noble skill you can ever acquire. But we got into some big corporate environments, and they're like, "Can you just put communication session?" I'm like, "Yeah, if you want, we'll deal with that when we get in there."
Yeah, they're pretty much the same thing. The fundamentals don't change, do they?
No.
Like the fundamentals to engaging people, customer service, human interaction, they don't change a lot.
No.
Technology changes a lot in terms of the way we deliver things.
Yeah.
But have you found over the journey, when you think about sales, is it service? Is there a service-based element to your philosophies?
That's a really good question.
It wasn't on the run sheet too, Ryan. Sorry, we're probably
No, it's good,
apologize.
and I love that. Right, so it's interesting when we were looking at rebranding. Me and Jack and I, the co-founder, we were talking about a potential rebrand, and we were like, what could we call the business? Because ISR training, it was international sales and real estate training, instant sales results. The ISR never really meant anything. It didn't speak to our customers or our message. And I remember Jack saying to me, "Is there anything that you say consistently when you start training? Like, when you frame your session, what do you say?" I said, "Well, guys, this is about teaching you to sell with integrity and sell honestly, right? This is not about smashing people over the head." He's like, "What did you say?" I said, "Not about smashing people on the head." He goes, "No, before that." I said, "It's about selling with integrity, selling honestly. It's about two humans connecting." And then we both went, "Swish." And it really, the high level is it's a human centric approach to sales. The reason I know that it's so important that we have that is the second Jack challenged me when I handed my notice in and I said, "I'm done." And he said, "Give me 60 days." And he said, "If you don't move from 20th to 21st, I'll pay for you and Alicia to fly wherever you want." I didn't think that's brilliant. What an opportunity. I thought I've now got free flights to go wherever I want. I don't have to succeed now. All I've got to do for the next 2 months is get punched in the face over the phone. And it doesn't matter if I make sales or not. This guy's going to pay for my flights. This is a win-win. So what I did then was stop caring. And I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I genuinely stopped caring about the sales because it didn't matter. I'm 21st anyway. There's nowhere else I can go apart from on this flight on the way home. And when I stopped caring, coincided, there was a conversation I had with Shane, who was the owner of the company. And Shane said to me, "Ryan, do you realize how good an opportunity you have?" And I said, what do you mean? I said, "I don't actually believe I can earn the money that you guys are saying. I'm not very good at sales." He goes, "No, you speak to 300 people a day. You have no idea what's going on in their lives. You have 300 opportunities every day to leave a lasting impression on somebody new. How cool is that?" And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I've since called that my 60-second legacy. So I made the focus of every call, can I leave every single person in a more positive way than when they answered the call? That was it. I didn't try to make sales. So what I started to do, and you're going to laugh at this, is I started to focus on the person, the connection as opposed to the commission, and I made loads of sales. And it's so obvious, but it's harder to do in practice to actually disconnect from the outcome because there's so much pressure on us from sales management and shareholders and investors, and we've got to hit our KPIs and our targets. But when I actually disconnected, I had that apprenticeship with no pressure. And now I'm fully of the belief that if I stop looking for the sale, I make the sale, if a sale is to be made. If that makes sense.
There's a people skills aspect to that I think's, yes, it is part of selling, connecting with people, building relationships, making friends. To me, it does take a back seat sometimes to those other things that you're talking about, which is the pressures of KPIs, targets, commissions, relentless pursuit of goals and numbers.
I've done it. When we started this business, I remember we were always week to week to pay our rent. When you need to make sales, that commission breath comes through. You start to cut corners. And I've built a business on the fundamentals that sales is a process. I'm not a big fan of scripting. I don't want to create robots, but I am a big fan of frameworks. And there's an order of which we should do things that can maximize the value that is heard by the other person. So if I'm chasing a goal or a commission, I might cut corners and I might skip a step or two. And then all of a sudden you get an objection creep in, or you start to get a bit of a time stall creep in. So if our focus is on selling, then we make mistakes. If our focus is on serving and genuinely trying to find out whether a sale should be made, that connection will lead us to the sale inadvertently.
That salesy aspect, the commission breath, love that.
Yeah.
What does that smell like? It stinks. It's not a nice fragrance. It stinks of desperation. A lot of ways in today's world, people don't even have the hunger, the appetite, the motivation. It's very much looking for the quick wins. And their fear of being a salesperson, fear of rejection, fear of being perceived as pushy, or they just don't have the hunt left in them. They lose the care factor. So they're just next. And from the customer's perspective, it feels really transactional. Like, how come that real estate agent never followed me up? That sort of doesn't make sense. Like, don't they want the commission? Yeah. So they want the commission, but they don't want to do the work. Or they've lost the hunt.
Yeah.
And they're just looking for the quick wins, the low-hanging fruit all the time.
I think it's real. I think it's absolutely real. The conversation that I come back to is often, what's more important, motivation or technique? And I often say to companies, if you're looking for a boost of motivation, I'm probably not your guy. I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not really going to be jumping around, getting everybody kissing each other on the head and doing the conga. I'm more of a practical sales and communication coach. So do we need motivation? Yes. Do we need to have a reason for doing those extra yards, to making that extra call, to knocking on that extra door, whatever it may be? Yes, we do need to have a reason for, but that will soon fall short if your technique's not on point. I could light a fire under anybody in a room if you want me to, but if I don't teach you how to ask the right questions in the right order, if I don't teach you the tone to ask those questions in, when to do an intentional pause to really have impact on the next word that comes after the pause, then all of a sudden you're going to get punched in the face and your motivation's gone again. So I think the reason we see this is because of underperformance, and people just get used to getting punched in the face. They go, you told me I want to think about it. The last 50 people that told me they want to think about it, when I called them back, they told me to leave them alone. So I just won't call them back because they don't know how to do it. It's a technique problem is what I believe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's will and skill. The biggest challenge that we come across is complacent cultures. So you have a team that's there, very varying degrees in terms of engagement levels, varying degrees in terms of performance level.
Yeah.
So how do you fire up a flat culture?
It's big picture, right? So I remember Andrew Banks, one of our investors, when he came on board during COVID, I had my 3-day wobble. And what I mean by my 3-day wobble was, I don't know if we're going to survive. I've never ran a business by myself before, let alone for a global pandemic, as many hadn't. And I spoke to all my investors individually, and all three of them across the board. The common message was communicate well, communicate often, and even communicate vulnerabilities. And what I did, I pulled my team together and I said, guys, this is the reality. I've never faced this before. I have no idea if we're going to survive or not. Which some other people are like, don't tell them that. Tell them you've got everything in hand. I'm like, I don't have everything in hand. I have no idea. But what I do know is that we're going to try everything in our power to survive, because this is where we want to go. And I articulated the vision. This is where we want to be. This is how I believe we're going to get here. And I need everybody on the same bus to do so. However, the issue I see in companies, why they don't have the whole company firing, is it's a one-dimensional vision. What I mean by that is it's a vision of revenue. It's a vision of commissions and money. It's not, what does that individual person want to get out of this role or this vehicle that they're in right now? My old sales manager, Rob, very faith-driven. He was training to become a pastor when he was here. He would tithe 10% of everything that he made back into his community. We very rarely had a conversation about money. Right? If you've done any sort of personality profiling, it was an S personality profile in DISC. The conversation was all about impacting community. And I bet you've seen this as well with the companies that you've coached. Unfortunately, sometimes the majority of business leaders, so managers, fall into the D personality type trait, which are very task orientated, outcome focused. I want to need results today. And you're not going to fire up Rob by talking like that at Rob, if that makes sense. So the leaders need to have an ability to speak all languages to create a cultural fire. You're not going to be able to just blanket them all. And I don't see it. I don't see it very often. It's one message, and then they get 25% of the room firing, and they wonder why everybody else is slacking off.
I know it's very simplistic, Ryan, but people skills. You think about the world's greatest coaches. The one consistent trait is people skills. It's the ability to tailor their communication, ability to understand different types of personalities, to connect with different types of people. That's an art and a science. That can come naturally, but a lot of people have to work on it. Yeah, I do find that that vision can be lacking. Like, all great leaders have a strong vision. Sometimes it's delusional, and it should be, because they got to take the people on the journey with them. Yeah. Is it Rob, your ex-sales manager?
Yes, yeah.
He's had the faith. He had a deep belief in a higher power. Love that. And that's sometimes with the vision, you have to have that deep belief in something much bigger than you.
Yeah.
But I do find when the culture is driven by numbers, it becomes very transactional.
100%.
Because people stop caring about anything but the numbers.
Yeah.
Which is a real trap. But at the end of the day, I often talk to clients and they're like, well, we're not a profit. We're not a not-for-profit. We are a profit-based business.
Yeah.
Yes, but you'll be more profitable if you just start showing people you care, if you invest more in your people, if you invest, you give a little bit back more to your customers, and you start to see them as less of a number, more as people. You'd be just like me. We work with great leaders and we work with pretty ordinary ones. Okay, we won't talk about the ordinary today. What makes someone a great sales leader, in your opinion?
I think you touched on it already. I think it's what makes a great salesperson, that ability to adapt, adjust, and respond to the person that's in front of you. Reading a person, not a script. The leadership training that's out there also is one-dimensional. We often talk about DISC or Myers-Briggs or wealth dynamics, and I feel like we're ticking boxes. I deliver DISC. I'm DISC accredited, and every single session I've done over the last few years, and I've coached people that have already DISC accredited as well. They're like, I've never seen it done like that. I said, what do you mean? You made it real, right? Made it real. So like, somebody walks in, how am I gauging their personality type? For me, I do the sign of the cross, and I mean no offense to anybody when I do that. It's, are they fast or slow? Are they task or people orientated? I ask two questions. Are they fast or slow, task or people? And I ask some open-ended questions at the beginning to gauge what's important to them. And then whatever their first default response is, it was either task or it was people. It was either delivered fast or it was delivered slow. And I think if we as school children, if this was in, I've got two boys now, nearly 6 and nearly 4. If we were taught to do this at an early age, there'll be so many more great ideas that would come out in the world. Because you've got all these kids that are either introverted, they've got anxiety, and they don't know how to articulate their message. They would then become better leaders. So I think you've already answered it. It is.
No. I was just going to throw away the script today. There it goes.
Do it. Away.
We're going away from the run sheet completely. I'm going to dig in here, Ryan. Let's dig in right in here.
Yeah, go
All right, so we talk a boom language, quirkiness. You have some serious quirk. The best of the best are quirky. Okay, the best. And when I say quirky, do you know what I mean by quirky?
Yeah, I know the phrase quirky. It depends what you mean, but I think I know what it means. Bit weird.
In our language, the boom language, it's really about the ability to disarm and build trust quickly.
Yeah. To
be non-threatening, to be unique and memorable. The best salespeople in the world and customer service people have the quirk.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the way about how they operate, not necessarily how they dress. It's just that their demeanor, the way they communicate, the way they think is different. And in any team we work with, there's always a high performer. There's always a number one.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many salespeople or service customer engagement people. This sort of, when you think about, okay, that ultimately means being 100% yourself. Okay, because you're never at your best when you are trying to think about too many things, when you're trying to say the right thing, when you're trying to profile people. The best of the best don't think like that. They're just being themselves.
Yeah.
They have a playful way about them. They're selling stuff, but they're just talking to people, sharing it, having chats, but they're super passionate about what they do. So to me, the tools are there. What we teach tools like you do, but it's interesting that, there are a lot amount of people that I see that are not genuinely following a career that lights them up. So they can be at their best because they absolutely love what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real interesting modern day dilemma for a lot of people. They're working in organizations, but they're not lit up. It's not their passion. Like you got to have the passion.
Yeah.
But, this, when I talk about lighting a fire in culture, it's very hard to do that if the people are not genuinely aroused by what they're doing or selling day to day, and it is a paycheck. So
I'm going to share something because I'd love to know if you've experienced this. I had to rein in initially when we first started doing corporate training. I had to rein in some of the motivation, lighting a fire, right? Just stick to capability training, stick to the sales stuff, because people were quitting after our training. Right? They've been there 4 or 5 years. They go, do you know what? He's right. This is not my passion. This is I'm not fulfilled every single day. So I've had to. I actually stopped it. I stopped doing it, and then I'm like, well, now I'm not being authentic to myself.
Bring it back, baby.
Now I'm back. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna light you up in a way that gives you the tools to maximize the vehicle that you're in right now. I remember an old coach saying to me once, Ryan, if you don't love what you do, learn to love how you do it. And it really stuck with me. So, and I wasn't loving what I did because I wasn't very good at it. I hated sales. I hated picking up the phone. Nobody enjoys getting punched in the face. But when I understood the process and the art, and I do believe that it's an art, and you can be yourself. I don't need to be anybody that I'm not. Sales for me is telling your truth better. Right? I have a truth. I have a story. I've learned the order of which to tell that story, which maximizes the response from other people. Doesn't mean I'm lying. It's just I've learned how to tell my story. It's like a surgeon figuring out what order to do things in. And they're not manipulating anybody. They've just learned to do it in a better way. And when you do that, you find that people start to feel more fulfilled in the same role, even if they don't love the product. And then I talk about seasons. Maybe this is where you need to be right now, but can you learn some skills and tools that will be able to transition with you into anything else in the future? And that's what I love about communication. It doesn't, I genuinely, hand on heart, believe I could pop myself into any company, and we've tried and done this, and I could sell anything because the product doesn't matter. The human connection matters.
Look, I think the product, the human connections are really important. I think the love of what you do, the obsession with the product or what you sell does take you to the next level completely. Because you're right. If you're good with people and you have a level of confidence in what you're selling, then, it's actually not that hard. That's the thing is, what's the easiest way to sell? Find a product people want to buy, and I think that's a lot of challenges at the moment for companies that have, I won't say who, but talking to a new client recently, and he was like, well, we boomed in COVID, based on their industry. And now we're going the wrong way because our team got used to order taking.
Yeah, it's common. Yeah.
But actually doing that grunt, doing all the things you need to generate leads, following up, all the things that we call tactical, require work and effort and energy. And if you don't love it, that energy is hard to keep manufacturing if you're not really enjoying what you're selling or believe in what you're selling. So I'm with you. We have had a similar feedback as well, Ryan, where they come up and say, thank you so much for that. We talked about passion. It really gave me the clarity. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Bravo. Because you don't want those people in your team anyway. Well, people that generally are not there for the right reasons. You can't really a high performance team around people that genuinely want to be somewhere else.
And maybe, I mean, I've had this as well, where I've had a sales leader. I'll tell you the industry. That's all I'll tell you. So solar company here in Brisbane, and at the start of the session, the manager pulled me aside and he said, Ryan, just so you know, those three, we've sat on that side of the table. We're letting them go. So don't worry about them. I'm like, what?
We shouldn't laugh.
Don't worry about them. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, no, they're no good. Anyway, so he said, I'm gonna have a little morning huddle with them all first, and then you come in, you do your thing. Okay, I'm like, cool. So I watched his meeting. Right, this guy was a high D personality type, money orientated, almost old school boiler room esque. And I'm watching these. I'm watching how they're reacting. Anyway, did my session as normal. At the end of the session, I said, "Can I just have a quick chat with those three at the end? Just hold them back." And he says, "Ryan, I told you earlier on, we're letting them go. Don't waste your time." I was like, "No, that's fine. I just want give me 10 minutes with them." He said, "Wait, we ain't paying you extra for it." I said, "It's fine." Anyway, I sat down with them. All three of them were the same sort of personality type. They were all S personality types. And I took his message from the morning huddle, translated it into their language on how they could get the most out of this vehicle that they're in right now. None of them loved solar. No, they didn't wake up excited about solar panels every single day. But they had individual goals and dreams and individual passions, and I tried to help them understand that being in this vehicle for the next 3, 6, 9 months, maybe it will help them achieve that. They were the top 3 producers in the next 2 quarters straight. Never did get rid of them. He just wasn't speaking their language. So you talk about leaders, like he wasn't adapting. And even me, as 3 months in, I was so close to leaving this industry, so close. And without blowing my own trumpet, we're about to host Australia's largest ever open source sales event in history in 4 weeks' time. And I quit. I actually had quit. I'd done it. And if it wasn't for one great leader, my old business partner, Jack, seeing something in me that I didn't see in me, I'd be back I could be back engineering right now. I could be changing a gearbox. So that leadership ability, the ability to see beyond the obvious in somebody, I think that's a great skill to acquire or have as well.
Brilliant skill. Again, back to people skills, isn't it?
Yeah.
Question I'll ask you actually, Ryan. Leaders will invest in people they like, which again is the same principle as selling. We naturally sell to and buy from people we like or share a likeness with. Some leaders, if they don't like certain individuals based on personality, based on a whole range of reasons, they won't invest in them. But that leaves a lot of potential on the table. Because we go to great lengths to surround ourselves in our likeness, humans. It can be a real downfall for leaders. And that's a great example of 3 people there, high potential. For whatever reason, the leader didn't want to invest in them or didn't see their potential. That I come across that a lot in my travels, where you have people that have a lot of potential, but they're just not being invested in properly. So they end up leaving, and going to a competitor normally,
or they fall out of the industry as well, and then they go that they just add to the group of people that say, sales is. You've got to be real high pressure. You've got to just bully people, and you've got to be what everybody thinks salespeople need to be, which is actually not true. My best salespeople have been in over the years. There's not enough females in the industry, and you said it earlier. You said one word: care. Like actually care about people. And the best salespeople I've ever had are the ones that genuinely care. Yes, they've got a competitive edge, and they want to earn money, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they actually care about the human being on the other end of the phone or the Zoom or wherever it may be.
Kindness with a killer instinct.
Yeah, nice.
When you have that, when those 2 forces come together, danger.
Yeah.
That person has the drive, has the motive, has the edge. Yeah. They come from a place of care and kindness. Deadly.
I struggled with this because I get the principle. I got the principle, and I would friend zone people. So I don't like conflict. I didn't like getting objections. I think my greatest skill now is preempting objections before they arise. Not because I was a genius at understanding humans. It's just because I had such a burning desire to not get an objection. Because if I did, I'd put the phone down. That's how I used to deal with them. So I'm like, well, how can I stop it? So I learned that skill. But what I would also do was friend zone people, which meant I felt really uncomfortable following up with them. And they felt really comfortable telling me just to leave it for another week or call me in the new financial year. So when you say killer instinct, then I just thought what I did to get that killer instinct was I'd say, can I just put my business hat on for a second? And for some reason I do that. And I still do it to this day. So I might go, Trent, can I just put my business hat on for a second? Because I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't let you know, and then I get back on track of wherever I needed to go. Otherwise, I was just floating around in this friend zone for ages.
Yeah, the friend zone, not a good place to be. But that killer instinct, that's a really good point, Ryan. That killer instinct manifests in different ways. So we use a slightly different model. We use a Virginia Satir-based communication style model. So the DISC, obviously, personality profiling, communication styles, thinker, director, socializer, relator. So if you think about, that killer instinct could be, if you are more thinker or highly analytical, less assertive, then you have, you're obviously going to eat people alive with details and facts and data. So that's where you bring your killer instinct through. So I find that's really interesting. How can you bring your strengths through as part of that killer instinct? Just want to come back a little bit here, thinking to our run sheet, which I threw on the ground. But what do you think the number one trait or skill that's really highly important to most people when it comes to sales and customer engagement? What do you see that is missing?
What is missing?
It's important. What's the one most important thing that people need to do more of?
I mean, the lazy one is connecting again and adapting. I normally say there's card, so there's competitiveness, right? There has to be an element of competitiveness for you want to want to go the extra yard. There's adaptability. There's resilience. We need to not take things personally, and I'm talking to myself here. That I struggled with that a lot. Recognizing that it's not me, it's the situation, and then. The last one would be that disconnect that we mentioned earlier on, the ability to actually disconnect from the outcome. So if we can drill it into people that, guys, there is an order of which we do things. There is a process. There's almost a mental checklist. Can you learn this order? Can you learn this check sheet so well that you can be ultimately present in every single conversation? You don't need to think where you're going next. You don't need to think about the language or the word track that's coming up. You haven't got to think about your rebuttal. You're just so accustomed to having a conversation with another human being. It comes intentionally natural, if that makes sense. And I say to my team all the time, I don't care if you make a sale or not. I actually don't care. Did you prep right? Did you get your intro right? Was your framing right? Did you ask your discovery questions in the right order that we know works with human behavior, not against it? Did you go past, present, future, cost of inaction, partnership questions? Did you present at least 3 options so that then we've got what we call middle offering syndrome? Did you trial close in the right tone? Did you build value in self, company, product? You do all that right and they don't buy? Cool, go home, relax, have a great evening. If you didn't, and you didn't give yourself a chance to maximize that interaction, then I have no idea where you could have gone wrong. So there's probably another trait in the middle of all of that as well. It's that ability to be consistent. You described me probably intentionally a minute ago about the data and process. I'm very analytical. I'm a C personality type, even though I masquerade as an I. So for me, initially, when I first started to get to grips with this, I wasn't like breaking all the records, but I wasn't rock bottom either. I was just like there. I was just really consistent. So I didn't, if something's working for me, I won't rip it up and start again just because I'm bored. I'll keep doing the same thing over and over again. And maybe that's my engineering background. I'm not sure. But the ability to go, hey, this is working for me. I'm going to keep doing the same thing. I'm on stage in front of 1,000 people. I'm going to share my story in the same order every single time because they still need to hear it. It's not their job to know how good I am. I've told that story thousands of times. People in the room have probably already heard it, but I'm still going to tell it because that's what gives me the best chance to make maximum impact. I think people get bored and they start changing things up and chopping and changing too much. So consistency, we could probably add to that as well.
In all aspects, his discipline. His discipline.
So it's not consistency of the results; it's consistency of the input. It's just almost trust the process, but which allows you to be super present with the person that's in front of you. But if you are, we role play 4 times a day in here. And I'm talking about everybody, like HR, administration, videographers, receptionists, everybody plays a part in the sales process. And I'm in companies, and you would definitely see this. They never practice anything until they get a live customer. And if they were paying for those leads, they do something different beforehand, I guarantee.
Spot on, spot on. That I was going to link that into role playing because it is the cheapest form of training and it is a form of practice. Because what you're talking about there is having that consistent way of operating where you can literally throw away the script. You know the script, like an actor. The actor knows the script. They've got to be in the moment.
Yeah.
They've got to be able to connect. You know, we have a saying, don't practice on your customers.
Yeah.
You know, you should be role playing. That to me is just such an, I find this as well, like it's just such an undervalued form of performance development is the role play.
Yeah.
And then you get, we sort of do a little bit of role play, but we find the team don't find it real, you know, and they find it a bit sort of fabricated. So, okay, we'll make it fun. It's the most important.
Yeah.
Like you look at an elite team, it's all game-based training from, you know, so it's match sim. Some people don't like the role play because they get exposed very quickly because you can sort of fluff your way a little bit with a customer sometimes. If you know a little bit more than them, you're an expert.
Yeah.
Not with your peers. Your peers like, whoa.
This is so important, right? Nobody talks about this. Nobody talks about this bit. I call it in sales, in like a sales floor. I will ask the manager, do you have a promise room? And they say, what's a promise room? I'm like, do you ever get any sales reps that will walk into another room and they'll close a deal in another room? They're promising stuff in there. They're giving the extra yard, the stuff that's not on their script. And it is. And training in that group format, and this is also another reason why people leave companies when they engage a training company, is because they are getting exposed. They've been doing it for 35 years, but they're still doing it how they were doing it 35 years ago.
Really good point.
And they don't want everybody else to see that they're not actually conforming, and they're probably still getting relatively good results, so they can hide. So yeah, like why don't we do it? We're scared. It's nerve wracking. Maybe it's not enjoyable. And like you said, can we make it fun?
The quirky ones, Ryan, love it because it's a time to shine. It's a time to show. I want to show. Yeah, it's a time to express. To show them, you know, this is why I love what I do. Like that they're really keen to share normally, but it's about creating that safe environment so people feel safe and supported as opposed to judged and ridiculed.
Yeah,
you know, psychological safe environment where you can look like a dickhead. But again, you would come across this as well, Ryan, where you go into teams and, you know, I'll ask them who considers themselves a salesperson if it's a sales team. Not service, a sales team. Who considers themselves a salesperson? Hands go up. Everyone in the room's hands go up. I say, right, John, what are the last 3 books that you read on sales, podcasts? You know, when's the last workshop you attended? Tell me about how you self-educate yourself. And it's very, very interesting that sort of enthusiasm for having the hand up can be, well, yeah, like I read a book a few years ago sort of thing. People aren't educating themselves, which is fascinating when you think about it. That's their profession.
We don't look at it as a career. And I think that's a huge issue.
It's something people sort of fall into, you know, and they learn on the job and it's by osmosis. They learn their skills, but the sales managers, I want to see if this is consistent with your business. The sales managers don't necessarily want help. Because sometimes they think that's my job.
Yeah.
The managing director or CEO is the one that reaches out for help.
Yeah. There's a little bit of job security going on there for sure. Yeah. And then we're trying to complement what they're already doing. You talked about exposure a moment ago about sales reps. I think sometimes the sales leader gets exposed as well. You come in and do training, somebody stands up and does some role play, and you go, how long have you been saying that? Oh, Tony taught me to say that. He said this is the best way to do it. So I'm like, okay, so now I've got to get Tony back on board in the room live in a group environment. So I think some of them are scared to be found out because inadvertently, sometimes the best salespeople get made up into sales leaders. Yeah. And maybe they've been doing that role for 4 or 5 years. They've, like you said, maybe they've never even read a book. Maybe they've never done any up-to-date training. So there is that fear and apprehension for sure. So we often talk about getting a champion on board. Like one of our models, SWISH Legacy, is a 12-month mentoring program where we take that leader and we coach them, and then they help us then embed the SWISH methodology over a period of 12 months amongst their team. So really getting that one person with us, not against us, is exceptionally important.
Yeah, very true. We have a similar model, fearless leader model. Very hard to drive change unless you have people on that bus.
Yeah,
And there's the resistance that from a change process, normally, if you're embedding a sales process or trying to really change the way a business is operating,
yeah,
can be really challenging if you don't have all the key leaders on board.
yeah. We've made all the mistakes. Just give you some
Mm.
online stuff. See if you'll watch it. Do a
Yeah,
one-off workshop. See if anything will stick. And I think
yeah.
you've been doing longer than I have, but 10 years in, you start to figure out what works and what doesn't.
It's like, oh, yeah, can we come in and charge you to just wallpaper over all the cracks?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, seriously, that's some people are happy doing that.
yeah,
We know it doesn't last. The sugar hitting approach to training does not last. Like it's like trying to get fit, going to the gym 2 days a week,
yeah.
two days a year. But frightening. This is really interesting. We go into companies and sometimes they haven't had training ever
Yeah, yeah, I see it.
or for years.
Yeah.
When's the last time you did sales training? Oh, wow. That would have to be before my time. It's like, how long have you been here? 4 years. Wow. Some companies have internal training departments and the bigger ones have their own academies. But it's one of those things you have to be working on it constantly, and there's multiple sources of knowledge. Like you shouldn't just be reading one book or doing one training program or listening to one influencer. You should be just trying to take in as much as possible, constantly feeding that beast, because it is a form of, training like an elite athlete's doing that daily.
I think you said something there, like there's skill set and capability, and then there's product training. And then when we dissect it with the companies, when was the last time we do training? Oh, we do training every month. Oh, okay, cool. What does that look like? And it's just product training, but they're not actually doing the people skills side of things.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a big sports fan, specifically football, soccer, and we often talk about the elite professionals. They don't just get a coach until they get to the top. They have a coach all the way through, and it's nutrition, it's mindset, it's stress management, and then it's the skills and capabilities. Then it's how do we study the opposition, decision making. There's an ecosystem. I got 17 coaches, and all of them at some stage have coached me, and I'll never stop. I'm only 41, but I know that I'm never going to be done, and it does blow my mind. And I don't know if I'm talking now because I'm in my 40s. When you see these people in their early 20s going, mate, I got it. Lead me to it. I know what I'm doing. I'm like, there might be 1% that you might get. And you could probably teach me just as much as well in the process, but they're closed off, fixed mindset, as you said.
Very true. Very true. Oh, look, it comes through. It comes through experience, doesn't it? Learning this stuff, because you are bulletproof at a young age. I know in my 30s, I was terrible. I was just ferocious.
Yeah.
But I was hungry to learn. I did my first course with Tony Robbins in my very early 20s. Yeah. And that just lit a fire under me in terms of self-development and NLP and everything else. But it was really out of dissatisfaction, which Robbins talks about, the motivational dissatisfaction. So unhappy with my life. I wanted to learn. I wanted to get out of here. I wanted to do things. I wanted to have things. So I think until you get that fire under your belly, which can come in different forms, it's very hard to motivate people if they're very complacent, and good luck to them.
Yeah.
If you're happy being happy and you're happy being average, I don't think there's a problem. I don't have a problem with that.
No,
but it's not the culture I want to be in.
No, not everybody wants to change, do they? Right. But I say one of the biggest lessons I've learned, again, super, super cliche, but with the people that I've been fortunate enough to be around in recent years, there's always another level. And you could put people in that environment. Some people will rise to it, and some people will go, I don't want to do all of that. I don't want to chase it. I look at, April, as you know, amazing opportunity to spend 5 days on Necker Island with Sir Richard Branson. There was a panel thing every single day where they would do like an hour or two of questions. Richard would sit there in the audience with his notepad, 73, 74 years old, just making notes. No phone, no distractions, just consuming. What else does he need? Like, what is he still trying to consume? But that's just who he is. It's part of the fabric of who he is. I'm not actually learning it for anything. It's just what I do. It's who I am. And all of the people that I've been around, our investors, they're all the same. I coach some of our investors now, and they're billionaires, and they're sitting with me in my boardroom. I'm doing one-on-one training with them. And in my head, I'm like, what are you doing? but they get it. They understand the game. So how can we build that into I'm trying to do it into the mindset of my kids right now, that practice makes better, not perfect. There's no perfect. You never finish. We're always learning. And I always wonder where did that come from? And I think it has to come from parents and the environment that you're in when you're very, very young.
That Richard Branson, one of the all-time greats, isn't he? Like, as in terms of human and his story, amazing. That would have been pretty special getting to hang out with him and get a bit of the magic dust rubbing off.
He said on the first night we got there, he said, this is a magic place here. He goes, you guys, there's 40 of us from all around the world. He said, you will not leave this island in 5 days the same person that arrived. And I'm sitting there quite skeptical. Like, oh, yeah, here we go. Right?
Yeah.
And within hours, I'm thinking different.
Yeah.
There's people on there that were multi-billionaires. You can't spend 5 days with people like that and think smaller. It's impossible. Through osmosis, it goes in. I came back. Within 10 days, I sacked someone, filed for divorce, and remodeled the whole business. And now I'm living that remodel right now. It's September. So put yourself in the right rooms with the right people, and that you will think bigger, because sometimes you can't have belief in yourself, but other people can have belief for you, and they can show you what's possible. When I'm in Leicester in England, where I'm from, I never thought I'd meet Richard Branson or do things that I've done. It wasn't even in my peripheral. It's impossible. But now I'm like, how do I partner with Richard Branson? It's a different game I'm playing now, right? Because of that environment that I keep putting myself in.
It's almost when you get to that level, you almost being around that type of energy, that is a different frequency. It's a different band. You're switching bands in a way.
Yeah.
Where the opposite applies. If you are surrounding yourself with those people that are at a lower vibration, in terms of ambition, growth mindset, all that sort of thing, then you find that you'll resonate. Well, but I think it's getting out of your comfort zone and saying, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
And I really don't know what I'm doing, to be honest, but I'm making it up as I go, and I'm bringing in good people to help me. Love that. That's honest.
Imposter syndrome, right? It's real.
Yeah.
So one of my coaches, a guy called Nam Baldwin. He works with the Olympians. He does deep water diving and breath work, and it's all about kind of regulating. And I remember him saying to me, because I told him, I said, oh my God, I'm going to go to Necker Island. And he said something, it really stuck with me. And he said, Ryan, don't spend the first 4 days of 5 not believing that you belong there. Don't spend the first 4 days not believing that you belong there. And what he meant was, like, don't let imposter syndrome get hold of you. And it did a little bit. I'm there, and there's companies there that are doing billions of dollars. I'm not doing billions of dollars a year. But what I realized was these guys are doing all this money because they'd learned how to articulate their message to the market. They'd learned how to sell a product. So when people were coming around going, so what do you do, Ryan? I learned my elevator pitch really quickly, which was, it's quite interesting, Trent. I coach people just like you. You know how you're like a genius, an inventor, and you've got all these great ideas? I help you sell that to the market. So every single one of them was like, oh, I need you. I'm like, you've already raised 500 million. You probably don't. But anyway, a lot of them now have become my clients, and I'm working with these uber successful people. And as soon as that imposter syndrome went, I was able to actually be myself. I don't need to be anybody that I wasn't. And I openly said to them, I don't have all the answers. The only reason we've survived in business is because we knew how to sell. I had no idea how to run a business at all. In fact, at one stage, we had to stop selling for 6 weeks because one of our owners recognized we were going to go under if we carried on at the rate that we were. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about cash flow forecasting. Didn't know how to structure back-end support. It was just, we're selling, aren't we? We must be growing. So yeah, don't need to know all the answers. That's for sure.
I just love that. To me, that story is, you're putting yourself into a very uncomfortable environment. Not uncomfortable in a way where it's physically uncomfortable, but you're finding a bigger pond to swim in.
Yeah.
And there's bigger fish in there. But that's where the learning is. But that staying in the comfort zone is a very typical way of operating, as people just maybe don't have the confidence. They don't have that belief. When you are surrounded by people who just tell you that, just stay here, do this, like when you feel different and you want more, and you're around people that aren't on the same page, then it can be really a real trap, a real tricky navigation, because you do have to, in a way, reinvent yourself
Yeah.
to go to that next level. That means being usually around better people, not better, but different people that have different ideas, bigger ideas. And I find the ones that I work with are very, very supportive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they're incredibly supportive of people that want to not look at them as a checkbook.
Mm.
It's like if I'm ever raising money, I'll never go looking for money. I'll go for knowledge first.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
You know, knowledge is more valuable than the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you went through that experience with the Shark Tank experience as well, Ryan.
Yeah, we get asked that a lot. Like, why did you give away 30% of your business? I'm like, we didn't. We invested 30% of our business into three of the brightest minds that's ever existed. To be honest, it's probably different with Jack and to me. For me, it gave me validation that we were on the right track. Jack was a lot more streetwise than me, business, a lot more business now. But for me, it was like, wow, these guys have actually looked into our business. They've dissected for 6 months, gone through due diligence. They've put their teams through our training. Like, we train some of their portfolio now. And then they've gone, this is actually pretty good. So in my head, that actually validated that my idea or our idea was good as well, because this is my first business. I know it's your baby, right? So you always think it's good, but to get somebody of that caliber go, that's actually really good. It gave me a level of confidence, which really led towards the reinvention, which I think is really important.
We talked earlier about how do you light a fire in a complacent culture where you have to have, I believe the main role of a coach is to build confidence and belief. In all aspects. You see from junior kids, you would know this, Ryan, as well. Like, you see these kids loaded with talent, no confidence.
Yeah.
Just imagine when they start to get the confidence rolling, what happens. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You just see them starting to believe. And I think that's such a powerful way of operating as a leader. My job is really to build confidence in my team. How do I do that? As opposed to, not hitting targets, conversions low. Okay, we need to talk. You need to lift your game, Johnny.
Yeah.
Not enough activity.
Yeah.
Okay, boss. All right. You know what I mean? Like, let's look at the data. It's just it's a different ball game when you're starting to think about, my main job is to show that I care. Do they know that I care? And am I building confidence in my team? So I think that's a really powerful way of operating. And it doesn't take much for some people. Like you said, a couple of times in your journey, you've had that belief.
One conversation. It can be one conversation. The other, I think it's a really important message, and I'm gonna keep sharing it right now, because it was a one-on-one scenario with Sir Richard, where he just said to me, Ryan, don't forget to be playful. Don't forget it. That wasn't really belief in the business to do with the product, but it was, Ryan, make sure you have fun along the way. And what it inadvertently did was reinforce my thoughts about remodeling the business, to not feel guilty about trying to remodel a business and give myself more time with my kids, or more time with me. Give myself a life back. So again,
words of wisdom from Sir Dick.
Yeah.
Seriously,
it's a new value.
Don't forget to play.
Don't forget to be playful. I'm going to get it as a tattoo.
It's something we have to remind ourselves of constantly as adults.
Yeah.
Are you having fun? Are you enjoying it? If not, what the hell are you doing? 84 is the average life expectancy, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Because a lot of unhappy people in business.
Seen it.
You know what I mean? Like, it's that's not fun.
Yeah.
And that's time. That's your most finite resource you're exchanging for being unhappy. So it's a reality. It's a modern day reality for a lot of people.
The danger zone is where people go, oh, well, there's somebody worse off as well. Like, I love what I do. I feel very fortunate that I get to go into amazing companies or jump on in the studio and deliver training. But that doesn't mean that I can't enhance it and make it even more enjoyable. So I'm remodeling. I remodeled the business to give myself even more enjoyment, not to the detriment of our customers. But there will be people that say, when's enough? And that message starts to go in. It starts to seep after a while. And I've seen people now, not just on Necker Island, but in general, they've made hundreds of millions of dollars. They've sacrificed things for 25, 30, 40 years. They've got their money. They got their exit, and they're not happy. And I'm not saying money makes you happy or doesn't make you happy, but can we enjoy the journey? And that's really, I guess what Richard was saying is, Ryan, don't wait for the payday, right? Don't wait for the end goal. And when you think, oh, now I'll be happy, enjoy every day. And that's
Age old wisdom, isn't it? Smell the roses.
yeah, genuinely, yeah.
What do you enjoy most about what you do, Ryan? What's the thing that you really just absolutely love about running your own business in this industry?
Oh, about running their own business. The team running. I was going to go somewhere else until you said running their own business. So running my own business is watching these guys achieve more than they realized they could achieve. So I see a lot of me in my employees, and I know that's not the best way to recruit, but I see a lot of people that maybe they're a bit more introverted. They lack a bit of confidence and belief in themselves. And to really be able to nurture people and take them on that journey and get them to look up and out and see something in themselves that they couldn't see before. I love that part. Love that part of the journey. And before I go on to the second part, I'll just say this. It's interesting when people say, just be you in sales, be yourself. But what if you don't even know yourself? What if you're being the current version of you and you're not being the potential version of you because you haven't amplified your skills, you haven't learned certain aspects of mindset and regulation or whatever. So I was being myself, but there was a much better version of me inside that I hadn't tapped into just yet. Does that make sense? So when people go, I'm just
Absolutely.
me, I'm like, what if there's a better version of you? And that
Well, who
doesn't,
the hell am I?
yeah, who am I? I mean,
Yeah,
that's a scary question, right? It's a,
you do. You got to go to South America and get on the ayahuasca to go really deep into the self discovery.
and
But
this,
a lot of people operate like, think about it. Human brain transmitter. We're on Wi-Fi. No one knows the secrets of the universe. Why we're here. There's religion. There's faith. There's all this sort of stuff. But no one really knows. So a lot of people really don't know themselves or what they're conditioned to think a certain way, behave a certain way. There's social expectations. We're told to do this and do that. That's all being sort of in a way, where it's all changing.
yeah,
We're going through this shift in social consciousness and how we think and how we behave, which is some good, some bad.
yeah,
But yeah, if you don't know who you are, that's why I think the best way to learn about life is just to experience things. To travel, to experience different cultures. But
yeah.
a lot of people really don't know what they want. That's actually, I want to link this back. That's the number one boom rule is to know what you want.
Yeah,
And a lot of people don't.
need a reason for,
I think that knowing of understanding yourself is a big part of that. Because you were 10 years ago, you were thinking very differently than you do now. And 10 years from now, you'll be thinking very differently than you do now, because you're constantly learning about life and yourself.
And then through experience, I now get excited about my 10 years from now goal. Like if there's not a chance in hell that I could have written 10 years ago to have achieved or even been in the presence of some of the people that I've been in. It wouldn't have even come into my thinking. The last interview I did for Necker Island, it was like an 8-month process of interviews. And the guy said to me, Ryan, was it always your dream to meet Sir Richard? And I was like, no. Who dreams that? Who thinks that's possible? It never, and it wasn't. And at the time, I remember jumping off the Zoom going, was that the right answer? I don't know if I should have said that, but it really wasn't. But now, because of experience, and I've proved to myself, I've got belief through evidence that I can achieve some really, really big things. So when we come back and we say, we're going to put on this crazy big event, I believe we're going to put on this crazy big event. I believe we're going to do that. So where will that be in 10 years? And that's really exciting. It's really, really exciting.
Very, very quirky cat you are. Love it. That's why you are very good. That's why you're an A grader.
Right, thank you. Thanks for the questions, and thanks for digging, because it's really important that we got to some of those points, I think.
We did. Yeah, awesome, mate. See you soon.
All right, take care. Cheers.
This is Not for the Average with Trent Leishon.